Well, good morning, everyone. This is Peter Boutros, and I have Sharif Hatab here with me. Welcome to another episode. And today we're going to be talking about how office exclusive listings are hurting consumers and hurting the real estate market and real estate agents. So, good morning, Sharif. How you doing today?
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day out today on a Sunday. I know yesterday was a little hot. I'm sure you were as busy as I was.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of headlines lately, Sharif, about how certain brokerages are going backwards almost now, where they want to have office exclusive listings. And Zillow came up and said, hey, if you're going to have an office exclusive listing and then you're going to try to put it on MLS afterwards, we're not going to show that data. We're not going to show these listings on our feed. What do you think about that? And do you feel like there's any benefits to that at all? Or what are the disadvantages?
I mean, it's like you said, Peter. It's like going backwards. I'm not sure how that benefits the consumer at all, really. Either the buyer or the seller. To go backwards and to not only have office exclusive, but to have them in a book, at your office that you'd have to come view. And I've heard, I think we were talking about even submitting offers via fax. I mean, I don't understand what's going on over there, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, you want to represent your client. I mean, the whole point for us marketing properties is we're supposed to be marketing them, right? We're supposed to be actually getting them out there in front of people that would want to buy them. I think by doing an office exclusive, you're limiting the pool of people. I can understand sometimes there's situations where the seller is not in a position to put it on the market, but if they are, that's probably in their best interest. And then, Zillow fighting back. I mean, you got to follow the money, right? So really, it's going to limit the amount of exposure that they're going to have to listings so that they can market them and sell them as premier agent leads. So, I mean, that's got to be that side of that thing. But it's really, you got to look at what is important and what works best for the consumer. And what's your take on it, Peter? I mean, do you agree with what's going on?
Definitely not. I definitely don't agree. And you said it perfectly. Our job as listing agents is to get the sellers as much exposure as possible. We tell everybody, and I'm sure you do the same thing. I'm an agent, but I'm a professional. I'm professional, and I'm very good at marketing. And that's how you're able to get the listing in front of as many people as possible. We try to go as in every channel, every way possible to get this house exposed. If it's going to be video, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, cold calling, door knocking, mailers. This is how the seller gets the best price for their home. Office
Mm-hmm.
exclusive to me, it just it only benefits the office, and I think it's more of a move so Compass can have more market share and have that as you know a way to recruit more agents within themselves. But at the same time, the only time I feel like this might be okay, if let's say you're dealing with a very high level client, maybe a celebrity, for example, and they just want to have a lot more privacy and not have everybody showing their house or coming into their house. But there's a way around that, right? Like you can talk to the agent that has the other client and just be like, hey, I want to talk. Tell me more about the buyer. Show me proof of funds. Show me pre-approvals, whatever the case might be, so this way they're not and not anybody's coming in. Do you agree? Like, have you ever had a situation where you have a high level client where they just don't want random people walking in their house?
Yeah, I mean, you have those types of situations and are able to control those, but I think it's also just the seller that just doesn't want to go to the public. That's really what a lot of what I see. Even though you want to put them out there in front of as many people as possible, they don't want that. They're embarrassed. They're not in a position to. They don't want certain people to know that they're selling. So in those type of situations, I've seen it, but to run your business on just doing just that, I don't think that's the correct way to do it. right? There should be just those special circumstances on the back end. Is how we certain like we have a couple that are agency exclusive right now, and we're facing the dilemma now that even if we did put them into a public status and took them out of agency exclusive and made them exclusive right to sell, it still wouldn't go live on Zillow now. So it's another dilemma that we have to face. It's something it's crazy. I mean, things that are shifting in real estate right now, you think would be the total opposite. But sometimes you got to go with the changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of brokerage out there now that are rolling out addendums, pretty much disclosing to the seller if they want to go an office exclusive route, what kind of the rights that they're forfeiting before they go ahead and sign that office exclusive.
Hmm.
You need to understand that if you do go that route, you have the risk of not getting as much exposure, having less offers, getting less of an offer than what you would get if you go on the market. You may be selling it, taking a very long time to sell. All these things the sellers need to understand if they decide to go that route. What's going to be the disadvantage of going that route versus just going through the public? And a lot of sellers don't understand, and if the realtor or the broker that is going in and letting them know, like, hey, we can sell your home off market, office exclusive only, they really need to disclose these things versus not disclosing it because it can really hurt the consumer.
Definitely. And I mean, sometimes you used to use it in the past for a way just to get the consumer just to get used to selling their property before they flip the switch to go public, right?
Right.
And like, yeah, we'll do a couple of weeks if you like. We'll just do it within the brokerage. And then, if we don't get anybody, we have the option at that point that we can flip it to the public. But now, with Zillow making these changes, it has a real bad, caveat to the actual theory of trying to do that. And unfortunately, it's something that you can't do any longer.
I agree. And just like you said, I mean, Zillow is in this business to make money. So
Yep.
they know if that happens, they're not going to be able to make money based on selling the leads that they get from the listings because that's how they make their money, right? And a lot of times I let them know, like I let them know what is Zillow's job, and as much as Zillow gets the highest amount of traffic in the real estate world between buyers and sellers, they unfortunately they have control. They have a lot of control. They're the big gorilla in the business. So if they say we're not going to do it, then it may hurt the consumer, but they're also looking for their own pockets too, after their own pockets and and the benefits to them, which is going to hurt it for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I guess when you're going on a listing presentation and if a client tells you, "Hey, we don't want to put it on the market. We just want a cash offer or we want if you find a buyer, just give us a call and then we will go ahead and pay you your commission." What do you typically say to that?
I mean, I typically tell them, so you're agreeing to pay for a commission then, correct? Right. So why would you pay me to go find you a buyer when you can pay me to actually represent you and market your property and put it out there so we can find you multiple buyers? I mean, is it one buyer you're looking for, or do you want an option of what to choose from? Right. So I kind of want to dive into that and be like, you're going to have different, scenarios that you'll be able to find quicker when you put it out to the public. And it's really, you're not doing yourself any benefit. It's because what's our bottom line? Our bottom line is we want to make sure you net the most money, and in order to net the most money, we got to get your home in front of the right people, and you're limiting your actual buyer pool at that point. So that's really what we want to advise them on. But sometimes it's not, in what they can do, right? It's really something that they're against, something that's a scenario, that they're embarrassed. They don't want to go on the market, things of that nature. And you can understand that. But other than that, most likely, if you want to get the most for your property, you should be going publicly on the market.
Right? Well, we say exactly that too. And pretty much I tell them like, "Hey, so you're telling me that you want to pay me to work against you, not for you?" And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you just said. But we say the same thing because at the end of the day, if we don't have a contract that I have the fiduciary responsibility to represent you fully, then what you're telling me is that I have to go find a buyer, and then now my fiduciary responsibility is to the buyer, not you, because we don't have an agreement together, right? So that's also one of the benefits, right? Like people, a lot of sellers don't understand what we do and how what is involved in the transaction. Our job doesn't stop after getting their home on the market or even getting them an offer accepted. There's so many things that go in between inspections, navigating the transaction from start to finish, which we tell them like we make sure that we fight for every dollar for your home, even during inspections, even during appraisal, right? Because that's our job. We want to make sure that we get you to the finish line with as much money in your pocket at the end of the day. Wouldn't you agree?
No, definitely. That's the whole name of the game. And the reality of it, that's the service that we provide. So you got to tell them that and let them understand that for sure. And that's their benefit of going to the public. Like, that they're getting the most amount of money at the end of the day. And rather than, just keeping it exclusive within the brokerage on a regular basis, especially, and then going backwards and putting it into a book, it fathoms me. I don't understand it at this point with the digital age. Why would you go backwards? But hey, dude, you. But so I think it'll cause a little shift. I think people will start to understand the importance of marketing your property. But I'm interested to see the feedback that comes out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is just another, that's even worse than going for sell by owner, I think, at the end of the day. It's like at this point, why are you even hiring a brokerage if they're gonna only have an office exclusive to maybe, I don't know how big the office is, but what is the possibility that an agent from their office is gonna have a buyer, versus another broker? I mean, you tell me, Sharif, how many deals did you close where you listed the property where your office or somebody from your office ended up bringing the buyer?
I know there's not much dual agency. Maybe like 20%, maybe if anything. But we have a pretty big brokerage that covers most of the state. So with thousands of agents, so there's a good chance of it. But still, it's always like a different brokerage,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like that's 80% of the buyers that you're leaving off the table. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you feel like agents that are with brokerages like this should they reconsider maybe their position with that brokerage, or what would you recommend them to do?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the general, rule of practice, I would definitely reconsider it. Leaving opportunity out there and not capitalizing on the market today, and it doesn't make sense. So I would definitely reconsider it, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's just been a lot of changes lately with the real estate industry. I feel like every few months there something new comes up, and just like it's like never ending, and it's never gonna stop, right? It's one of these things where we have to be very flexible and adaptable to changes, and not let get the headlines, take us back from the day to day. Because I know it's so easy to get involved in the headlines and then think that the world is falling apart, it's collapsing. If it's between interest rates, tariffs, the buyer agency agreements are coming up, the lawsuits. Like in the last 12 months, how many changes have we gone through alone in the last 12 months in our industry, right? It's insane.
Seriously. Yeah, but when it goes down to the basics, though, you just got to pick up the phone, right? You just got to make the dials, and that's really what it is. It just got to talk to people on a consistent basis. You have to have it like your goal is to talk to homeowners on a consistent basis. That's it. That's your life. So that's really what it should be. And with that being said, you can do that on a better spectrum when you're out on the public and not doing agency exclusive.
Yeah. And what do you do to keep your team's mindset when difficult headlines like this come up? Like, what do you do to just keep them focused on the target, to keep them focused on what they're supposed to be doing, so they don't, this way they don't verge off and getting down and think that this market is going to cause their business to go down.
I mean, it just keeps going back to what we've been doing, right? We always do like the basic things, is just focusing on our KPIs, talking about like the calls that we're making, talking about the appointments that we're booking and seeing that we are actually, you control what you actually produce, right? It has nothing to do with what's going on out there, and we're talking about a small percentage of the market that would do agency exclusive anyway. So just letting them know that, but keep doing your daily habits. That's really what it's most important. Don't let the outside noise affect that. Is how we handle it.
Exactly. You guys can't get distracted from the headline.
Yeah,
That's what news is, right? News is they're never
distraction.
distractions. Distraction. They'll never have a positive headline out there, right? It's always going to be a negative headline, and it's
Yeah,
and it's there for a reason, right? Because negative headlines sell. They're looking for clicks on their articles, and they want more people to go on their website. And you guys need to understand that. That's the whole business they're in. If they were selling positive news every time, like people are more likely to read and go through negative news versus positive news. That's how it is. That's how it is. That's how people are. So, any if anybody's listening to this right now and feels like the market is challenging or they're getting beat up with all these headlines and it changes, just continue to focus on what you can control. The market you cannot control, the news you cannot control, the changes you cannot control. You can only control the actions you do on daily basis, and leverage people that's on in your brokerage, in your team, if you ever feel down, and try to be around people that are doing the work, right? They're working hard, that don't let the market news affect them overall.
yeah. You can't control your own controllables. It's basic. And you got to understand that. And the things that you can control are the things you can control, and just keep doing those things because that's what you can control. Everything else is going to play out the way it's going to play out. You're just going to have to figure out how you're going to react to those issues when they actually come up.
I mean, I'm sure you get this question a lot too, Sharif. And when you go in, like, people always ask, "Hey, what do you think of the market? Do you think we're gonna be in a or the market is gonna go up? The market is gonna go down? What do you feel like the interest rates are gonna do in the next 6 months? Like, what is the best answer to that question?"
It's hard to say what interest rates are going to do. Um, But the fact of the matter is, people are moving. People are moving because of life events. They're not moving because of interest rates, right? No matter what the rate is, they're still gonna, need a larger home or a smaller home, or have to sell a property that's not theirs because they inherited it. There's gonna be different reasons of why it happens, and inventory still we're still low on that. So it's a supply demand thing at this point. Until we can get inventory up or demand down where people don't need to move, I think we're still going to be in a stronger market as we're going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially here in our market in New Jersey, the market is very strong. So it's still a very strong sellers market. I would say some areas are a little bit more stronger sellers than others.
Yeah,
There's some areas that we see some areas that have a little bit more of active listings, and some areas are not. So, I tell, like, and this is why it's very important. If somebody asks us that question, I mean, I assume that you're at a listing appointment when they're asking you that, or you already know what home that they're looking at. Not to Sharif, but whoever is listening to this, because I know Sharif obviously does. But you got to understand the location, the area that they're in, and go over how many active homes on the market, how many homes that sold in the last 6 months. All these things matter, because you cannot just make it a general rule of thumb, because that's another thing the headlines shows, right? Says, oh, Zillow's predicting that home prices are going to fall about 3% in the next 12 months. But they're talking nationally, right? They're talking nationally, and this again another negative news that they're trying to sell. And then if they weren't selling that, people are not going to be, they're not going to be clicking on their articles. But at least we know in our market that that's not true. And Florida, for example, we know that it's a very strong buyer's market now because homes are sitting on the market for a very long time. So they're taking the average of, the national average overall, and they're selling that. But you got to really know your market, and even hyper local market, where the areas that you're focused on or wherever that the seller is coming from. You tell them how the market is in that area. Every market is different.
no, I agree, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are you seeing? Like, are you guys active getting more listings now? Since it is typically like people make a lot of moves now. How do you seeing the market on your end? Do you see a lot more activity or?
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty good with picking up listings along the spring. There's been a lot more activity with people wanting to put their home on the market. It's really the amount of work that you put in, though. It's going back to the basics. It's not like we're just waiting here for things to come in now. So we're proactively going out there and tackling it and trying to putting ourselves, positioning ourselves in front of sellers, homeowners specifically every day. That's our goal, is try to get ourselves in front of homeowners every day.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we're doing the same thing. I did notice a little bit of dip from our agent on the calls, especially last couple of weeks. And I get it because a lot of them are getting busier. It is the spring season. People are out there showing homes or on appointments. And I saw that the call dropped and I talked to them about it. I'm like, you guys need to make sure that your calls don't drop because 2 or 3 months from now, you're not going to have anything on the table and you're going to be complaining about that you're struggling, right? So in order for you to avoid that, or any agent to avoid that, you got to make sure that you still block the time that got you to where you are now. If you're so busy and actively showing homes or going on appointments, that's because you were so active 3 4 months from now when you didn't have anything on the table. But now when you have a lot of things going on, people typically tend to drop the activity that got them there from the first place. And then 3 4 months from now, they're going to end up going back to zero, right? And this is what we call what the real estate roller coaster. So, like, what do you do? What does your team do, I guess, to avoid that?
Same thing. I mean, try to block time, especially for prospecting. We do a weekly, call night just to make sure that everyone stays motivated, learns, different scenarios and scripts that everyone else is using, and really just trying to figure out how we can do it on a consistent basis and be consistent with it. And I do my one-on-ones with my agents as well, and that's probably one of the bigger things that we talk about is their schedule and making sure that they're at least blocking 1 to 2 hours a day just for prospecting, so they can keep that pipeline going, so they don't have those roller coasters. And that's really what we try to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Same here. It's our job, right? It's our job as team leaders is to make sure that they're going on the right path, and that's one of the main benefits of being on a team. Like you, a lot of times these agents are very uncomfortable when we have these one-on-one conversations with them, right? But after having them, they thank us for it because they understand it's more like it's like tough love, right?
Some do.
Yeah. At the end of the day, is we do it because we care. Otherwise,
Right.
if we didn't care, then we just let them do whatever they want. It's funny. I had an agent that I was interviewing the other day, and he was telling me this is exactly what he's looking for. People realize, especially after they've done it for so long on their own, they realize the inconsistency of their work, inconsistency of their efforts, right? And they want somebody to kind of be there to like pull them back whenever they stop doing the work or they feel down. And that's one of the biggest benefits of the team. And it's the same thing for us too, right? And that's why we have coaches to make sure that we're staying on the right track, because it's very difficult to consistently do it day in and day out, because we all do through deals.
Definitely. Every day.
Awesome, awesome. Any last comments, Sharif, that you want to tell the audience or anybody that's listening?
No, I just besides the fact that putting your property in public is probably the best thing to do for you. As we started it off, I don't think going back to just the agency exclusive, going back to a book model, is really the best benefit for the consumer themselves on either side of the table. But rather than that, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe below. But it was great talking to you today, Peter, and have a great day, man.
Same here. Same here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk next week.
All right, man.
Take care.
Bye.